Taiwan's parliament electing a new speaker who is said to be pro-China. Huang Ku-yu is part of Taiwan's largest opposition party and a former presidential candidate. He lost to Taiwanese President-elect Lai last month. Meanwhile, the Washington Post is reporting that Taiwan may lose another ally in the coming days, writing, quote, Tuvalu is one of only 3 Pacific Island nations that still recognize Taiwan. That could be changing following last week's election when Tuvalu's pro-Taiwan prime minister surprisingly lost his seat. Joining me right now is AFPI Senior Fellow and Chairman of the China Policy Institute, D.C. International Advisory CEO, and former Deputy National Security Advisor for Dick Cheney. Steve Yates is with us. Steve, good to see you this morning. Thanks very much for being here.
Good morning, Maria. Thanks for having me.
When we first saw the election of a new leader in Taiwan, there was broad expectation that Taiwan won, that China lost, that perhaps, the pro-China group was actually put aside for the time being. But now you've got a pro-China leader for the parliament there. What does that mean in terms of China control in Taiwan? Because sometimes they look to do a soft control, the way they did in Hong Kong, marching in and just sort of throwing the rules around. What are your thoughts here on Taiwan?
Well, first, Maria, there are some really strong echoes from 2000, 24 years ago, when Taiwan elected a plurality president and the legislature was controlled by the opposition, KMT, which still holds out a broader vision of the Republic of China, somewhat controlling all of historical China mainland in their vision, in their constitution. That's at odds with the Democratic Progressive Party, where the president has come from, that focuses more on the democratic process and resisting CCP encroachment and coercion. So that's the collision. And there were consequences to that in 2000 that are very much present now, in that the legislature can stand in the way of the necessary appropriations for Taiwan to increase its deterrent capability. And the Biden administration now, as the Bush administration in early 2000, needs to move quickly to allow Taiwan to buy more of what it needs to deter this kind of aggression. The added ingredient is what you allude to. Now, China is much, much more aggressive and interwoven into all of our free societies, including that in Taiwan. And so there's a huge question about whether the new legislative speaker, Han Kuo-yu, will continue to propose kind of independent negotiations, peace agreements, or trade agreements with China that compromise Taiwan's deterrent and security.
Yeah, I'm just wondering, do you believe that the CCP will go into Taiwan at some point?
Well, in some ways, they're already there,
yeah.
The way they're already here.
Right.
And so the influence is already present. And, of course, the coercion, everything, including funny balloons that have crossed an increasing number, to people and companies that have red ties, as they would say in Taiwan, already there. Now, could they do more? Any given day, we live at that risk. We have a combatant commander who has alluded to that. That's the reality. We've talked about that many times. Yeah. There's no reason to believe that a full-on invasion is coming at any moment. We just can't rule it out. And that's up to them. They're not transparent, not responsible, so we have to live as though it could happen anytime.
So the head of the White House delegation, of course, went to China for the fentanyl talks earlier this week, saying that the 2-day meeting was, quote, substantive, but that much more needs to get done. This was the first meeting on fentanyl since President Biden and Xi Jinping's San Francisco meeting in November, when they took that walk in the park. Steve, do you believe that China is going to do anything on fentanyl? Of course, last time we were on the program together, you spoke about your daughter, Christina, who unfortunately you lost due to an accidental fentanyl poisoning. Your thoughts on these fentanyl talks? Steve, I know this is obviously personal to you, and our heart goes out to you over Christina.
Thank you so much, Maria. It is personal, but it's personal for millions of American families. And frankly, for all of us who have suffered loss, it is not acceptable to just say we're going to have meetings and hope for progress. Can you have normal relations with a government that is willingly involved in the disillusionment and psychological damage and manipulation of our children and the death of our children? And that's happening from everything from technology and social media, TikTok, stock and others, all the way to this deadly trade of illicit precursors that China's involved in. And so exactly how many American deaths and families damaged does it take to say that we're going to come to the table with more than the promise of a future meeting? If there isn't any more significant penalty pressure put in place, I just don't see this as serious, and I think it's a betrayal of an attack on our homeland like no other.
Yeah. I spoke with President Trump yesterday and met with him for an hour and a half, and he said during his term, he spoke with Xi Jinping about fentanyl and said, knock it off. We're going to actually see an impact from all of this fentanyl, and he said it stopped, that it wasn't flowing through the border. It was secure, the border, that it wasn't the issue that it is today. And we see that to be true with 100,000 people dead from this poisoning in the last 2 years. Is there anything that this administration can do to truly make a difference to stop it? Or does China just believe this is weak leadership and they're going to roll it over Joe Biden and his minions and not, do anything to keep the promise? Because I'm really not optimistic about the CCP keeping promises here.
Obviously, I'd be very desperate to find optimism in this. Unfortunately, I think the Chinese Communist Party sees all kinds of signals that say that they can get away with this and act with impunity.
That's right.
There are reasons why Xi Jinping and others thought that they couldn't get away with it with Donald Trump, and it would be good for the rest of the country if people get aside whatever their personal weirdness was about dealing with that time in our country, and say, hey, they believed they would face a penalty that mattered to them. They don't care about human life. They don't care about human dignity, but they care about pain and loss in their own system. And Donald Trump made them believe that would happen if they didn't change course from trade to other areas. Whether we like it or not, we're dealing with a devil, and they've got to feel that. Yeah,
that is exactly right. That was spot on, Steve. And I want to tell you really about this most recent story where everything you just said comes to light, and that's about this Chinese banker, Bao Fan. He disappeared, right, last February. He resigned as CEO and chairman of China Renaissance Holdings and then was disappeared. The company initially said it simply lost contact with Fan, but later said he was cooperating with an investigation from Chinese authorities. He's allegedly stepping down for health reasons and to spend more time with the family, Steve. That's what they actually said, spend more time with the family. And this is a regular occurrence from the CCP. They just disappear people. We don't know where they go. Do they go and get locked up?
Now, there are a lot of elements of this that are really eerie that hopefully are waking people up. I mean, this is obviously not normal. No. This doesn't happen in major economies and major financial centers around the world. This is sort of like the way people used to trip and fall off of Russian buildings, and people sort of wised up that something wasn't right there. But this is a larger scale. And how can we have normal dealings with an entity and a system that has weird stuff like this that happens? Yeah. And look how creepily they have learned to use American lingo to talk about this and minimize it. Oh, he's spending more time with your family.
That's right.
That never came up in the Chinese Communist Party culture. That is speaking Americanisms to try to dissuade us from believing what we see with our own eyes.
That is such a great point, because that is exactly what they do. They take our, comments or our phrases and throw it back at us, Steve. It's pretty extraordinary. The Chinese Communist Party claims it wants to be part of the international system, the global fairness system, and yet it doesn't certainly behave that way. Steve, it's good to see you. We send our best to you and your family. Thanks for being here this morning.